12 and a half hours off. Yeah, isn't that?
From the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers cutback.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Ant Hill Show. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going free agency frenzy, and Jay Hill, we've already seen a lot of things happen. So we're gonna be with you guys for the next 40 to 45 minutes, and just kind of touching on what's happening, and also kind of some of the things that we're dealing with when it comes to the 49ers, because there's a lot going on with players leaving, potentially outs, people going out. We haven't seen really anyone come in yet, but names familiar with the 49ers signing elsewhere. And let's be honest, Jay Hill, getting a lot of money in the open market.
The market is wide open. The market is wide open, and it's hot.
It is hot, yeah. So it's going to be a fun one. I'm really excited about this episode. We got some guys in the chat. What's up, Sean? How's it going? Sean in the house. My guy Josh is in here saying hashtag TCC. Welcome, Josh. And he says the damn Chiefs. And that's correct, because Jalen Moore, if you haven't heard already, is on his way to Kansas City, a 2-year deal worth $30 million. It's interesting. I was on with Mark yesterday. We talked about Jalen Moore potentially getting a starting job somewhere.
He will be.
And I said Kansas City for $15 million. I just, off the top of my head, I honestly didn't put that much thought into it, but that's exactly what happened. So they go from Joe Thuney to potentially Jalen Moore as their starting tackle, and now Kingsley Suamataia moves inside, or Jalen Moore moves inside, one of the two, but they got themselves a pretty good player. Were you surprised to see Jalen Moore get $15 million on the open market?
Yes, but then because I saw that around 8:30ish this morning. I was watching ESPN stuff, and that came out. At the time, it was a little surprising, but then as more and more of these contracts have hit, it makes sense because everybody's splashing cash all over the place. So
yeah, and I mean, when it came out last week, or maybe the end of this week or beginning of this week or whatever, that he was potentially the third tackle on the market, that made me think for sure he was going to be going somewhere else. And he does. And, the Chiefs get themselves a good player. And now the 49ers have a definite hole to fill. We've seen them fill the guard spot with Ben Bartch. But I'm talking like there's, they don't have a swing tackle right now. Nope. So they're going to have to make a decision. So that's going to be something they're interested in. It could happen in free agency. It could happen in the draft. My guess is a very low risk, potential veteran followed up by somebody in the draft now that they go ahead and get. So that's going to be interesting. And Jay Hill, Elijah Mitchell also goes to the Chiefs. I'm kind of shocked to see Mitchell go so quickly. And I mean, it makes sense for the Chiefs. I mean, if Elijah Mitchell is healthy, he's one of the better running backs in the league. I just thought that people were going to have a lot of concerns about his injuries,
never healthy,
and potentially Wade, but he's already off the board.
Yeah.
So no. I mean, I don't think 49er fans, to be honest with you, I didn't think 49er fans will really miss Elijah Mitchell. They've been done with him as far as injuries. But I think Kyle Shanahan probably would have loved to have had Elijah Mitchell still in San Francisco.
Yeah, no, it seems like that puts J.P. Mason more back in play now too. Personally, I would have rather we kept Elijah. I think he's a better player than J.P. So I'm definitely bummed out about that one.
Yeah, and then all the conversation and guys, keep putting them in the comment section about questions and stuff like that. We'll make sure we get to it. But, one of the things that had been a big conversation point, including Matt Mayoko talking about it yesterday, was the fact that they believe DJ Jones was a potential hit for the 49ers in free agency. And DJ Jones is not. DJ Jones re-ups with the Denver Broncos, gets paid $13 million a year. What's funny is when we started the conversation way back when the Niners season ended, me and you were talking, and Spotrac had his his compensation looking at like around $6 million. I'm like, man, that's affordable.
That's perfect.
Like, yeah, that's a lot cheaper than when he
doubled
left.
that.
But unfortunately for us, it kept going up. It was $10 million last week, and he gets $13 million from the Denver Broncos, and the Broncos are paying people because they hit on
Bo Nix.
Yeah, they hit on that, and they're looking to get more players, and now they get DJ Jones locked back up, and so no chance of DJ Jones. So, Jay Hill, how are you feeling? Because we see former 49ers who have been leaked to the 49ers getting big contracts. You got DJ Jones. He stays in Denver. You get Javon Kinlaw, who signs a huge contract with the Washington Commanders.
That one shocked me.
Yeah, he's getting $15 million per year, which is very shocking. Last year, he got a $5.6 million contract from the Jets. When you're thinking defensive line, with the 49ers in their current state, where do they go? What are they doing along the defensive line? Jonathan Allen's meeting with the Vikings.
He's in Minnesota. So, and like we always say, usually if a player goes to a facility, they don't leave that facility. So, looks like we can check him off the board. I thought yesterday when they cut Malik Collins that they would have a good chance to get one of these guys. Now I'm kind of like looking around at the D tackle room, and it's like, who's out there still? I know there's still Grady Jarrett's out there still, so he's going to have to be an option at this point. And now, I mean, this gets back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago. If it continues this road, then Mason Graham has to be their first priority and do whatever it takes to get him in the draft, because our D tackles are looking pretty weak.
Yeah, I mean, right now, defensive tackle spot. Now, they haven't officially released Malik Collins. The expectation is that they're trying to trade him before they release him, but that decision, could be made. But I would guess that this meant that they were going to hit on some defensive tackles. They still could. I just think the most likely names, right, for the 49ers are already coming off the board. And, I mean, it doesn't mean they're out on Jonathan Allen, but it definitely appears that they're going to put more of an emphasis on the draft, which I don't really have a problem with. Like I said before, I think there's a lot of really good defensive tackles in this draft that the 49ers could potentially get, and most of them have a starting grade. So, I mean, you could definitely load up on defensive tackle in this draft. You could get young. You could get affordable, and, maybe they're going to go that way. There's still a lot of really high-priced free agents left. And, I think that probably the 49ers, David Marazzo, he sent me an email this morning, and I think he's really correct, is the 49ers are probably going to try to be more strategic with B-level free agents, try to spend low and get high production out of those guys. And so as we see these big names go, the question mark is which 49ers are they going to be able to keep? It looks like Talanoa Hufanga is gone. I don't know. Have you got confirmation on that?
Still, I'm checking Schefter and Rappaport and Diana Rossini's stuff on X, and there's nothing about that yet, but I have seen multiple reports that he is at least talking to Denver too. So
yeah, so I saw it in the chat, and I don't know if it's correct. You guys all know Horst. He sent us a text this morning. He said that Talanoa Hufanga to the Denver Broncos was a thing. I don't know if that is, but it wouldn't surprise me. Denver's going to spend a lot of money. That AFC West, they are absolutely in an arms race, and so it doesn't surprise me. Another name, Jay Hill, that's off the board, and it's another DJ, is DJ Reed. He's headed to Detroit, and he got a 3-year deal worth $48 million and $32 million guaranteed. And I think this is something that we've been talking about, and Jay Hill says
that's probably what he saw too.
Okay, so this is Raj from our SF Niners that posted the Broncos are closing in on a deal to sign 49ers safety Talanoa Hufanga per Jeremy Fowler. So Jeremy Fowler is reporting that they're close to a deal there. So the Hufanga thing's not done. So
he knows what's up, though.
We're not going to tell you that that's done, but it looks like they're nearing a deal. That doesn't surprise me. And then you've got the Lions getting DJ Reed. Jay Hill, let's go with Hufanga first.
Yes.
Because if Hufanga leaves the San Francisco 49ers, right now it would be Jair Brown, Malik Mustafa, and George Odom. And, we all saw Jair last year, and I can't say for sure that we loved the play. I wasn't a huge fan of how he played last year for the most part. And so I would like to know what do they do from here? I've brought up potentially they have a couple free agents, right? Julian Blackmon, He played for Gus Bradley last year. He nearly signed with the 49ers last year. So that's a potential way to go. Lots of people have talked about, other players that could possibly come in. What's your take on it? It's is this a priority in free agency? Can they get it in the draft? What are you thinking?
Safety has to be a priority because outside of people who had James Cook on their fantasy team, not many other people loved Jair Brown's playing this year. He was dreadful, and that might be putting it nicely. So a free agent is nice, but this feels like something that has to be addressed in the draft, though. Kind of the way San Francisco's looks like they're plotting out their off season. I can't foresee them spending massively on a safety. So I don't know. It's I'm not early returns here. I'm not happy with what I've seen, both what the NFC West is doing and what San Francisco is not doing. This, as we talked about on our regular show, like this is like a dream situation. You get a fourth place schedule, you get the Super Bowl at your own stadium. I would have loved to have seen them be more aggressive this year, and then maybe next year kind of dial it back. I'm not happy right now.
Well, we'll see what it's still
it's
early,
but
early.
Yes, no,
right?
I get it's early, but
I think I think for a lot of people there's that emotional connection, especially with Talanoa Hufanga. Hufanga, number one, Hufanga is one of the best dudes that the 49ers have had. I mean, my wife loved talking to Talanoa Hufanga at training camp. He signed stuff for our godson. He's just a wonderful person. The same way Charvarius Ward is, and both of those guys are likely exiting the 49ers. And you have to kind of disconnect from the people because they're wonderful people to the player. But financially, I think the 49ers were probably figuring Talanoa Hufanga was going to have a pretty good market. This is a guy that showed that he can be an all-pro in the NFL. And so I think him moving on was kind of a known thing. I think it's just a little bit tough to see. What'll really be tough is if we see 57 leave later. Right now, the fact that there's no news is good news right now, but it doesn't mean by when we wrap up this episode that Dre Greenlaw, we won't have a decision one way or the other. And I think that's one of the tough ones is as we see players going out and no one coming in, you have the questions of where the 49ers are going to go next. And I think that seeing Huff potentially leave is going to be hard. Seeing names that you thought the 49ers are going to be in on, DJ Reed, DJ Jones, guys like that, guys like Jonathan Allen, who recently the 49ers had a chance to trade for, in the Deebo Samuel deal. And he ends up, now he's going to the Vikings for a meeting. If the Vikings are smart, they won't ever let him leave. And so there's definitely some question marks about the 49ers direction and who they're going to end up getting. But there's still a long ways to go. There's still a lot of players that are going to be out there. And I get it. We see Devontae Adams going, to the Rams. We see, potentially we'll see what happens with Sam Darnold going to Seattle. So there's a lot of movement and a lot of things happening. And right now, the 49ers aren't a part of any of it. But we're early. Now, I was going to ask you, because I did see it in chat, and maybe Lou can put this in chat. Have you seen the financial numbers for Dalman to Chicago? Because
it was like 3 for 48, or is there 48 or 52? I've seen both. So
okay, so 3 for 52. That's pretty good money.
That's not the 20 that we had thought though too, which is kind of
it was kind of put out there by like Jeremy Fowler and others that it might get up to close to $20 million a year. And then this week I think they kind of walked it back closer to 15 million. But anyways, if it gets up to like it's close to $17 million per season, that is a little expensive for a center. And I know that the 49ers need to upgrade, but I've kind of been consistent on this that I thought maybe they might have to go to the next one, a Ryan Kelly or somebody like that if they wanted to go free agency. My problem is there's a couple guys in the draft that I think could be starters in the NFL when it comes to center, but it's not a deep center draft. So that thing makes me a little bit nervous. Would you have paid that for Dalman? And right there, Josh said 3 for 42 is what it ended up being.
3 for 42? That's even wow.
Yeah, 3 for 42 is even more affordable than I thought. So, yeah.
So last week,
$14 million a year is
we
what we
talked
said.
about 12 to 15. We were kind of all in on that number. 17 pushing it. If it got to 20, we probably were out. So I gotta say that if we're looking at the giant need that was, or that position is, the value that Kyle places on it, and the number that a 26-year-old center just signed for, that adds to the level of frustration now.
Well, now we're going to see a stark contrast in the difference of building a football team. Look at what Chicago's doing, right? They had two pretty good tackles. They go out and they trade for 2 guards, and now they sign the number 1 center on the open market. They've completely changed that offensive line when it comes to helping Caleb Williams. Now, what will that mean? I know he's on a rookie deal, so that'll changes that, right? They can spend a lot of money in that department. But what will that mean as far as playmakers for him? I think that's going to be the key, where the 49ers have went with the playmakers role and skimped at offensive line. We're going to find out which method really works the best. So it's interesting. Dolman, $14 million. I got to say, I would have paid Dolman $14 million. I would pay Ryan Kelly, and maybe they do choose Ryan Kelly over Dolman. But I would pay him close to the same amount of money to come to San Francisco, and we'll see what they end up doing. Affordable is one of the things that the 49ers look for when it comes to offensive line. And I think sometimes it's a little frustrating, Jay Hill, but it's what they ultimately decide. And so here's one from Sean, and I'm going to try to figure this thing out here. Is he's talking about, are there affordable offensive tackles in free agency that the 49ers could potentially replace Jalen Moore with? And what's crazy, right, is there's 2 offensive tackles signed. I do think Morgan Moses just signed, but they're both named Moore. Dan Moore, Jalen Moore. So the Moores are gone.
Yep, they're both gone.
But after that, you got no some other names. Morgan Moses, I saw that he just got a deal. So, I mean, when you're talking about somebody that can play that swing tackle role, it is a little bit tough to find one of those guys. I mean, I'm looking over the list right now, and nobody's jumping out at me as guys that, let's go get this guy to potentially step in and play that role. They had Charlie Heck in. They could always bring him back and have him play that role. I mean, it's just, to me, this isn't a great free agency role to find. I mean, you're looking for names. They have guys that you've already had in here before. So, I mean, no. I mean, that's the truth. Like, no offense, I don't want Justin Skule.
No.
I don't want some of those guys that are on this list to come in and be the swing tackle. So to say it honestly, there's not a great amount of players that you can put in that area for a swing tackle, because the guys who are of note are all going to be too expensive. So this is one of those tough ones. I think it could be as simple as they just stick with what they got and address it in the draft. And what do you think about that, Jay Hill, them not being able to really address the swing tackle role now that Jalen Moore's gone? I mean, you weren't going to pay a swing tackle $15 million anyways, but
the only way that you pay him 15 is if you plan on having him play right tackle, which ironically is what he's apparently going to be playing with the Chiefs. So I don't know. But yeah, no, once again, it's got to be something in the draft.
Right. And I would like to address this from Lou. Lou's one of my favorites. He says, skill position versus O-line, D-line. How's that worked out for us, Ant? Actually, pretty good. I think if you looked at Ben Johnson and the Detroit Lions compared to the 49ers, you would say that it's worked out better for the 49ers. They actually got to the Super Bowl. Detroit hasn't been able to get over that hump, and now Ben Johnson's in Chicago. So I don't think it's a proven method either way. I think finding the balance is one of the keys. And so far, neither one of those teams have found the balance. And we're going to find out if Ben Johnson's, plan of going all offensive line. And he's got himself one heck of an offensive line now. Needs to get himself a running back. I mean, he's sitting there at 10. Ashton Jeanty sitting
got to
there.
be in play now.
There's a chance for them to do some things. I think Chicago could be a player this season with the amount of work that they've done. But, I think that has been proven both ways. The 49ers method has worked. It got them all the way to the Super Bowl within really one play of winning the Super Bowl. And so I don't think that that's, a crazy thought process. And I think Detroit's been one of the most dynamic teams. So it seems both methods can work. It just hasn't got the ultimate goal done yet. So we'll see what happens with, the free agency. We're continuing to monitor which players are available for the San Francisco 49ers.
Crap.
What's wrong?
Did you just There's your boy right there. Doggone it.
What happened?
Go back up. Son of a gun.
I'm missing it.
Paulson Adebo to the Giants.
Oh, you didn't see that? That happened earlier today.
Really?
Yeah, Paulson Adebo went to the Giants for like I think $10 million per year.
So that was actually pretty accurate then.
Yeah, so that one was
another one that we
pretty
should
spot on.
have gone after him. I would rather have had him than DJ Reed. So
yeah, so I mean, we're seeing some of the big money deals come off the board. For the 49ers, we're not seeing it as much. We're seeing them kind of hanging low, and so we'll see. I mean, Grady Jarrett became available today from the Falcons. I think he could be a defensive tackle in play for the 49ers.
he almost has to be at this point.
Right, we're still not seeing there's still some of the high price guys that are still available. If I just go to all positions here and see who's available still, there's going to be tons of guys. I mean, we see Dan Moore's gone, Carlton Davis gone, Javon Kinlaw, Devontae Adams, Harold Landry, like Drew Dahlman, all these guys, you see their contracts. Oh, yeah, we can see it all right here. Jordan Lewis.
Jordan Lewis is supposedly getting close to Jacksonville.
Hassan Reddick, a 1-year deal in Tampa Bay.
Tampa, yep.
Yeah, Alex Kappa, the guard, he went to Las Vegas. Sheldon Rankins, Houston. Derek Barnett, Houston. Braxton Berrios, Houston. But Milton Williams is still available, and so, or is he? No, he's going to Carolina. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Milton Williams to Carolina. Yeah, so, I mean, these are the guys who have all went. Paulson Adebo, Elijah Mitchell, Durham Smythe also goes to Chicago. But here's the guys, you still have a lot of wide receivers available. You have, of course, Joey Bosa, Vaughn Miller, Brandon Cooks, Jay Hill. You know a lot about Brandon Cooks, and
a little bit, yeah.
You said you're not really expecting anything to happen with him today.
Not today, no.
So
probably not even tomorrow. It sounds like so.
Okay,
he's gonna.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. I mean, he is definitely a name that would be in play for the 49ers, potentially at wide receiver. But, I mean, there's still a long ways to go with free agency. But right now, the 49ers are kind of on the outside looking in. I wonder what they were going to do. And, here's one right here from CJ. We are in a total rebuild. How do you feel about that? Do you think they're in a total rebuild? Are they in a retool? Like, where are they at?
It's not a total rebuild. If it was a total rebuild, they would move off of Trent. They would move off of some of these other guys. It's not. It's a retool. It's not a rebuild. Okay, and the difference is, if you know anything about hockey, the hockey team that is very near the Niners is in a full rebuild. They traded away all their veterans. They acquired 1 million different draft picks, and they're basically trying to build around Macklin, Celebrini, and Will Smith. That's a total rebuild. San Francisco is retooling, readjusting, maybe a change in philosophy. I think at this point, it's safe to say that they might be going more Oakland A's Moneyball than New York Yankees spend every penny you have. But I don't think it's necessarily a rebuild because the roster still is intact, other than guys who were going to price themselves out of being here.
Yeah, I think we can agree that the number one position the 49ers need to address in free agency has to be defensive tackle.
At this point,
we've seen 3 defensive tackles go off the board. Javon Kinlaw, we're all very well aware of. He got 3 years for $15 million. We know DJ Jones signed before. That's why he's not considered a free agent. Sheldon Rankins got a 1-year, $7 million deal with Houston. I think that's very affordable for Houston. I think they did a good job.
That's a good deal.
And then Milton Williams goes to Carolina. We don't have the terms of that deal yet, but he's only 26 years old. Now you look at the guys who are still available. You have Grady Jarrett, who just got released by Atlanta today. He's almost 32 years old. You got Raekwon Davis with the Colts. If the 49ers will know a lot about him from Gus Bradley being there, so he's a guy that they could be interested in. They've had Sebastian Joseph Day. I don't expect him to come back. But you're looking at the list here, and I mean, there's still some guys, right? I mean, there's still some guys they could bring in, and potentially help the team, but definitely it has changed with the top guys already kind of going off the board. I don't know if I see, these day one starters that I think the 49ers might need, which is kind of tough because right now the cupboard is extremely bare. Especially if they're cutting Malik Collins, I think it's really tough for the 49ers, who really can't sign that guy that can really change, defensive tackle, and maybe they figure it out. But right now it's a little nerve-wracking for the 49ers.
Here's something interesting.
Okay, go ahead.
On the Pat McAfee show, Ian Rappaport, so we can take that for whatever it's worth, but not a Niner thing here, by the way, folks, but an NFC West thing. He says, quote, everyone thinks Sam is going to the Seahawks, but it's definitely not done. I would be surprised if it doesn't get done, though. So sounds like it's in process, but it's nowhere near being done yet. And, if Sam goes to Seattle, is it fair to say that San Francisco then might have the fourth best QB in our own division?
No.
Ooh, I don't know. A healthy Kyler is really good.
No.
Matt Stafford is obviously a Hall of Famer, so he's definitely still the best. And Sam and I don't know.
I want you to go sit in the corner and think what I said. Absolutely not. I mean, Kyler Murray hasn't been able to win at all, and it doesn't win in the playoffs. He's not a winner. The guy doesn't even get to the playoffs anymore. No, that's a definite. He's number 4. I think Matthew Stafford is, of course, the number 1 quarterback in the division. I think right now I would put Brock Purdy over Sam Darnold. Brock Purdy's proven it already. Sam Darnold, he had a great season last year, that's for sure. But he's if he goes to Seattle, he's not going to have Justin Jefferson.
His weapons definitely are diminished.
He's not going to have the guys that he needs to have, that they surrounded him with. And a turnover defense, that's not what's there right now. It could get there. I don't think so. Brock Purdy is the number 2 quarterback in the division, while Sam Darnold is still playing well. I thought last year, I'm not sorry. I went blank. The quarterback for Matthew Stafford. Sorry. I think Stafford's number 1 right now, but I would put Purdy as a close 2. And I don't think it's close other than that. That was crazy. That was a crazy comment.
Brock. So you're saying that Brock is closer to Stafford than he is to Sam?
Who?
Brock.
Is he closer to
being the best in the division, or the third best if he goes?
I think closer to the best, because I think Matthew Stafford is coming down a little bit. We're remembering who Matthew Stafford was, but yeah, I don't think so. And this is a good one here from Joe Bird. Why get rid of Malik Collins if they will not replace him?
That's my question.
Joe Boyd. I'm sorry, Joe Boyd is
good job,
on this.
Joe.
Right now, they actually haven't officially gotten rid of him. So Matt Miyoko said it's not official. They're awaiting to potentially be able to trade him. With the way the market is playing out, I think Joe's got a good point here.
He's got a great point.
Why go ahead and get rid of Malik Collins? Because Malik Collins isn't a star player, but what Malik Collins is at least a starter. And I don't think the 49ers have a starter on their current roster at defensive tackle right now. It's not Jordan Elliott. It's not Kalia Davis. It's not Evan Anderson. I think Evan Anderson is a nice run stopper. I don't see him as a 3-down defensive tackle in the NFL. He doesn't rush the passer well enough. And so I think that's a good point. We'll see what happens when.
Could they add some weight and move Gross Matos inside?
Gross Matos is not going to be a good enough interior defensive lineman to stop the run. He will have the same problems that you were getting from Javon Hargrave and you were getting from Kevin Givens, is when they face the double teams and the dual blocks, they'll get moved. So Gross Matos is a nice player for the 49ers when they're going to obvious pass downs and he can rush from the inside. But on first and second down, you need somebody that's a better run stopper. And so I think that's one of the things that, definitely he has to deal with. So, I mean, right now they don't have that guy. And, looking at the guys who are available on the open market, I mean, the big names, I mean, there's really no one there now for, besides, I mean, they could always still stay in the Jonathan Allen conversation, right? He's going to Minnesota, but it doesn't mean he's going to sign in Minnesota. He's going to meet with Minnesota.
Tell you what, at this point, if I'm John or Kyle or Prague or Jed, I'm texting his agent. I'm texting him, hey, just get on a plane. I'll send you my plane. I'm doing anything to get him out of that building, because the longer he's there, the more likely it is that he stays there.
Yeah, I think that's probably the point that, most teams don't want to let guys out of their building.
Yep.
If somebody leaves the building, there's a better chance they end up somewhere else. So you do whatever you can to keep them there. I think Minnesota, they need Jonathan Allen. I think the 49ers at this point
desperately need Jonathan Allen.
And so, that's the question. Is it, Grady Jarrett? I mean, Kyle knows Grady Jarrett.
Yep.
Whenever there's that connection, you can always expect, there to be a conversation. I do think Grady Jarrett would be a nice player for the 49ers. But, I mean, we've seen a lot of the potential defensive tackles go off the board. And maybe this is what, people have always wanted. The 49ers just go extremely young in the draft. They hit on a defensive tackle in round 1. They hit on a defensive tackle in round 3 or 4. Maybe they get 3 defensive tackles in this draft and absolutely load up at the position. It's not uncommon. It wasn't, what was it, Bill Walsh, who went all secondary at one point,
Yep.
Getting Ronnie Lott and getting Eric Wright and getting all the guys that he got to fill in at a position that needed a lot of work. And so it's not crazy to think the 49ers could do that with this defensive tackle group that's going to be in the draft. And Mr. Corey says this: the 49ers aren't signing anybody, guys. They aren't spending money, and that's all free agency is about. Well, they're not spending any money yet, and that's one of the keys is the 49ers were being connected to all the top level free agents. And I think that, they're probably waiting this thing out to be more active when it comes to the second wave. When you start getting contracts that make a little bit more sense financially for your football team. I think we were all expecting them to have at least one of these bigger deals. But when you started to look at it, and that's one of the things when I did my episode about, building the 49ers, is one of the things that I talked about was I just don't think we can pay top dollar for all these positions. So there has to be a give and take. And, there's people that really, think that that's the case. And there's some people that there was some pushback. So, I mean, that's it, right? You got to give and take. And I think the 49ers are trying to decide where they can give and where they can take. And right now we've seen some guys go off the board potentially that, they were interested, or that people thought the Niners would be interested in. But we haven't seen anyone cheap go off the board that they thought the 49ers were going to be interested in, right? We haven't seen like an Ashton Davis or, any of these guys that are kind of a little bit on the cheaper side go off the board. It's been all the high price guys, which usually happens at the beginning of free agency. And then Jay Hill, we had this from Sean.
Okay.
What free agent?
The Milton Williams deal to the Panthers is now official.
Okay. And would you have the terms of that?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
It just came across like 20 seconds ago on Shefty's tweets.
Feed. Okay. So Sean said, what free agent defensive end do you think the 49ers should target? I mean,
at this point, it's got to be Joey.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I have reservations about his health and stuff, but right now, I mean, it's pretty slim. I mean, you could look at Von Miller, I think, but to me, Von is more of a rotational piece at this point in his career, whereas Joey has the potential to be more 60 to 70% play guy than Von is. Now, I will say this, and I shared this with Ant last week because I was listening to KMBR, and they had on the Chargers play-by-play guy, and he said the last couple of years, Joey's gotten progressively worse and worse at setting the edge. So that's something that I think if he comes back here, that Solid and staff need to really kind of hammer on, and he needs to be better at setting the edge again too.
Right. The Chargers chose Khalil Mack over Joey Bosa.
Yep.
Joey Bosa is the one right now that I think everyone has got tied to the 49ers. The conversations came out, Tim Kawakami said that Joey Bosa and the 49ers were negotiating. There's, of course, always Miami's out there.
In play too, yeah.
He is from Florida. Like, that makes a lot of sense. But if he doesn't come to the 49ers now, him and his brother will probably never play together in their entire career. And so he has to decide money or that potential to play with his brother. And I think that's something he's got to decide. So you brought up Von Miller. The difference between them is 6 years. That's a lot of years.
Yes.
A lot of age there. So I think you've got Joey Bosa, who seems to me the most likely with the connections and the potential to how cheap that contract would be, because I do think it'll be a lot cheaper because of the pool of playing with his brother. That you don't really want to have to pay a lot of money. And so there's some really good players out there, though. We got Matt Judon is still out there. You got Zadarius Smith, who got cut yesterday. Charles Omenihu. I mean, I know he was hurt last year, but the guy's been productive, in his career. The 49ers could always bring him back. He set the edge well. He rushes the passer. And so I think he's a possibility as well. I mean, there's all kinds of former 49ers in here. Cleveland Farrell, former 49er, Chase Young. I don't think either one of them are actual possibilities to come in because I think the 49ers are looking for something more. A name that I do like is Joe Tryon out of Tampa Bay. Still just 25 years old, will be 26 during the season.
I do like him a lot too.
Yeah, so I think he could be somebody. I brought him up a couple of times before, and then, people wanting a pass rusher. Azeez Ojulari still available. Joseph Osai, who David Morazzo emailed me about this morning, and I hadn't really thought about Joseph Osai, a guy who wasn't productive in college, but has been pretty productive in his time in the NFL. So, I mean, there's still, when it comes to edge rush, I think there's a lot more options than there are interior defensive tackle. I worry about interior defensive tackle right now and who's available for the 49ers. I don't think it's as big a list and potential availability there. So it's a little nerve-wracking when you're talking about that. So we've got a lot of people in chat, and thank you guys so much for being in chat. If you have the opportunity, if you could like the channel, or like the video, that'd be great. If you haven't subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that as well. That would be really, really big. And people are kind of giving their thoughts on things in chat, all the way from, Jed York is cheap now, Joe Boyd says. And, right now, I mean, we'll find out. We're going to find out how cheap he actually is. That could be. But we got this from Lou. Ant, who do you want on the second wave that's worth signing for the lineman? I think this depends on if you're
talking O lineman or D lineman.
Yeah, just say clarify in there if you're talking O line, D line, because I think that's one of the interesting things, And Mr. Croy says, if Joey doesn't come to the 49ers, we never have to listen to this tired the Bosas want to play together story anymore. One way or the other, right? It gets fixed. Either he comes here, they play together, and they do something, or he goes somewhere else, and then the story ends. And yeah, you don't worry about them playing together. They chose not to. Really, Joey chose not to have them come play together. So, yeah. I think that's one of the things to consider. So,
that's a good point.
Yeah, we're getting some more things, continuing to come through on free agency.
I mean, there was at least some good news out of San Francisco today. Christian McCaffrey's going to be a dad, so that's right. Exciting.
And now another big name, people had this one to the 49ers, safety Trevon Morwig is going to the Carolina Panthers on a 3-year deal worth $51 million, $60 million max. So Trevon Morwig, a lot of people have considered him an option for the 49ers at safety. No longer the case. So we're seeing that come off. We haven't officially got any other word on that. How about this? Poona Ford is on his way to the Los Angeles Rams on a 3-year deal, just under $30 million with $17 million guaranteed. So Poona Ford stays in Los Angeles, but goes to the Rams. And now look at their interior defensive line. Ford being the big-time run stopper. And they got Braden Fisk to rush the passer at defensive tackle. Their defensive line just got better. So, I mean, this is according to Jeremy Fowler. So just right there, potential, safety, potential defensive tackle. I know Poona Ford was a lot of people's favorite interior defensive lineman, and he is gone. So, and Adam Schefter says Milton Williams is signing with the Patriots. I thought it was Carolina earlier. Yeah. Now Ian Rappaport says it as well, that it is the Patriots who are taking Milton Williams.
He must have just changed that then, because the one that I read had him going to the Panthers.
And how about this? Milton Williams setting a market for defensive tackles. He got $26 million per year. So huge money for Milton Williams. And that's what Josh says right here in chat. Milton Williams flipped to the Pats for $26 million a year. That's why nothing is ever official. I mean, we faced it last year, right? With Kendricks.
Yeah.
Could it be a 49er? Nope. Oh, Zimmer's down in Dallas. I'm going to take off. That is an absolute huge contract that no one was really expecting for the 49ers, to be able to do. I had seen yesterday, someone asked me in chat when I was on with Bark what the potential target was for Milton Williams. I looked up on Spotrac. They said $18 million per year. Spotrac was off by $8 million per year. That's a huge contract for Milton Williams. That is crazy. So Najee Harris, just so everyone knows, Josina Anderson reporting Najee Harris has told Steelers that he's, saying goodbye to Pittsburgh and could land somewhere else. And the Chargers apparently are the team to watch there. So the deals just keep rolling. And that Milton Williams one, man, that caught me off guard for sure. That was a huge deal.
Massive amount of money.
So, I mean, I think it's, right now the 49ers are quiet, but here we go. Jaguars signed Nick Mullins to a 2-year deal worth $6.5 million.
That's a bummer.
So Nick Mullins will not be.
Now my day's really ruined.
Oh, here we go. Another defensive tackle just came on the market. Steelers have released Larry Ogunjobi.
He's pretty good too.
Okay, now we're talking 49ers. Larry Ogunjobi.
Get on him.
Okay, that's a name I could support.
Yeah,
so
that'd be nice.
We were talking about it being a little thin at defensive tackle. It just got a little bit better with Ogunjobi, but who knows what that market's going to look for that? Look for him. And Josh says, "I'll take Larry." Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Take Larry. 100%. Yeah, that's a potential good one. So it's going to be interesting, guys. I mean, it's really going to be interesting. Free agency is a lot of fun right now. And I think it's only going to get better. And, I know the Niners haven't done anything yet, but we're going to wait and see what they do. And, it's going to be good. But we have to go ahead and check out now, guys. I'll try to check in later in the day. And I hope you guys all enjoy your Monday. And we'll be back to talk about 49ers free agency at another time, but we'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.
That's crazy. $26 million for him.
Yeah,
dog. That scares me. Because now, Ogunjobi can